Let's look at some of the, perhaps, I mean, Chris, you brought this up about ambitions within AV. Should we start with that?
Yeah, that would be good. It would be really interesting to understand as across the group where the direction of travel is, because I know during the pandemic it seemed very clear. You know, the requirements were very, very clear. You need to get kit available. You need to be able to work in a hybrid way. Everyone will return eventually. You know, so it was very clear. And we had the 3-year program in terms of the RAG. So it's just cycle that, cycle that, cycle that. But I'm not going to lie to you. There's a certain point where you go, now what? Do we just carry on cycling that? Are we going to continue to be able to innovate? What does that innovation look like? Is it just shiny tech, or is it new ways of working? So to a certain extent, it was very, very clear and very easy, actually. It was bloody hard work and lots of really challenging issues to tackle. But actually, it's like, what the hell next? Because I never had more clarity than during the pandemic and during that period. I don't know what other colleagues would think.
Yeah, let's, Jake and Lewis, I don't think you really spoke much about the kind of post-pandemic AV at Oxford. Could you talk to that a little?
Yeah, so you remember that clip of the Muppets show? AV at Oxford during the pandemic was, we should maybe do some. A lot of people spent a lot of money very quickly and handed out a lot of blank checks. And we are still dealing with the fallout from that. A lot of decisions were taken because they needed to be taken immediately to solve problems. And it's, you know, no knocking them. They made decisions because they had to. Decisions were taken on equipment availability, on lead times. Cost wasn't an object. We just needed to solve the problem. But no one did any governance. No one did any centralization. No one thought anything. Teams rooms are our big problem. Every single Teams room at Oxford that was installed before, or even now really, is owned by an individual person and tied to that person's email address. So when that person leaves, that Teams room dies.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad that it doesn't only happen at Cambridge.
Can you imagine how... I'll give you 3 guesses how we found that out.
Yeah, how did we find that out?
Someone left.
Yes.
Why would anyone ever want to leave Oxford, though? Surely, unless they went to Cambridge.
They came to Cambridge.
Sorry, I had to steal your joke.
Thank you. Someone's got to be on my side.
That's why I separated you. I lost topic there, sorry.
Next.
Well, I was going to say maybe to a certain extent Warwick was fortunate in that there had been an awful lot of standardization across the board. It's just that the pandemic and the investment that you've articulated amped it and accelerated it at pace, basically. But the guys had obviously worked for years and years to try and standardize and to draw locally timetabled facilities, locally managed facilities into the central timetable or maintain the quality of those standards. What we did was it just sped everything up, and it gave us governance and it gave us greater ambition. Maybe that was the difference between yourselves. And actually, I should have said this before, one of my great personal points of pride is that actually the AV services team predates the IT services team as was, and the IDD team. So it's the oldest of those kind of support professional services teams. So it has a legacy, and maybe a head start relative to Oxford colleagues.
Can I pour some cold water on this idea that standardization will save you? Because I think certainly in Oxford anyway, one of the benefits you get from standardization is that a team can easily go to any space and support it, right? We don't have that team that's going to go to any space and support it. We are so fractured down. And while we do have world domination on track, we're not going to get there within the next 5-7 year cycle of an AV system, right? So what benefits does standardization bring us? Well, we talked about room templates when we first started the service. And if you've got a space that was built this summer and you've got a space that was built in 1240, being able to have a template where you can try and put the same kit in each of them doesn't work, right? So what we've moved towards is this idea of standards experience. So in an Oxford teaching space, you should be able to do ... And that's going to vary slightly from department to department, division to division, what they prioritize. So we're not, edicting any of these specific things. The dual monitor thing's the one that comes up a lot, right? Geography, really like it. This is before global warming, this is after global warming. Ooh, wet. But for... I'm not a geographer.
Really?
All right. But for some of the humanities subjects, that's completely moot, right? Why would I need to do that? Music is not a big deal. So we have these standards of experience that we try and design spaces within the constraints of the physical space that will allow us to achieve these separate things. And I think there is inherent benefit from getting a set list of equipment that you use because you build up the knowledge in the team, etc., when you come to deploy it. But I think often we especially in Oxford, we talk about standardization as it's going to be this golden bullet that's going to come and save us all. And I think we'll just end up with the same problem in every single space rather than no problems.
I think for Warwick, to a great extent, it saved the sanity of the staff.
Yeah.
It saved the sanity of the support teams.
I don't care about that.
Well, I know, absolutely, and neither do I as a senior manager. That's irrelevant.
But taking a place that's a Crestron house and making them QSIS or Extron because that's our new standard, when the physics team are never going to touch any of our other spaces, and just ripping them from their nice little cosy Extron hole or whatever, doesn't really bring us anything.
No, it doesn't. I guess the point I was going to make was the point that I made in my presentation earlier, was that if you can get 70% of standardization in 95%, throwing out percentages here, in 95% of your spaces, it means AV can support it. It means, WBS technical colleagues or WMG, incredibly astute individuals, can go in and go, well, this isn't completely batshit. We can probably help in this space. Or events or conferences, colleagues, CAs, something of that nature, can use a facility. If this exceptional award-winning lectern was to blow up today, I'm sure, well, actually this is the worst room to say that, I'm sure there's lots of people that could fix it, but you get the point that our AV guys could do a bloody good job of getting it operational again with a degree of standardization. And also, because there's standardization in these facilities, if they need a hot swap, we can probably find them something, or if they need an upgrade, we can probably do them a deal. Quote, Ginge 10 for a discount or something like that.
I particularly liked hearing from you, Chris, that AV is very much now part of the critical infrastructure here at Warwick. Yeah,
100% it is, and obviously that wouldn't really have come about without the pandemic. I love the works that you guys are doing in terms of your major capital programs, the works you're large, getting engaged at REBA stage 1 through 4. Yeah, little did we know there are that many stages. But that's essential. Our estates program managers, program directors are engaging with us ever more early, whether that be AV or whether that be networking facilities, wireless facilities. A lot of the time AV used to be blamed when a project was late. We were always last in, we're after final fit. And also our budgets would be eviscerated. And we just got to a point where we're not standing for that anymore. These are our standards. We're going to keep to them to the very best of our ability. Budget notwithstanding. And actually we will just refuse to adopt the building. We'll refuse to support it going forwards. And we won't roll over with estates trying to value engineer us because they've overspent on their, shiny microwaves or fancy Dan ovens or whatever it is estates spend money on. I don't know. But to be, I clearly have touched a raw nerve. But the point is, if you forgive the technical parlance, we're stuck with this shit for 5, 7, 10 years. Estates, PMs, and colleagues are not. So that's why we work as partners now. We're not adversaries. We work together, and it makes a big difference.
I think you mentioned that you're looking for I think that your plan is a 3-year cycle with your, as you put it, continual refinement. Again, that was a term I really, really liked.
Yeah, so the standards are continuing, and like I called out before, I do struggle with my OCDs. I just think, oh, fantastic, we've got them all the same. And then the guys are like, well, no, actually the amber list was slightly different to the red list, Chris, and the green list slightly different to the amber list, and our new red list is slightly different to all of those lists. But you know what, that's just fine. Because like I said before, we've raised the bar from really weak spaces to incredibly strong spaces. And all we're doing now is, the guys, technical colleagues can articulate better than I can, but we're just trying to make more immersive facilities where we have more comfort monitors. Maybe we do, or maybe we don't have second monitors, but we have presenter cameras, audience participation microphones. We have lapel-less systems. We build, we modernise, we refine. And maybe that's actually the answer in this room. RAG was great, we did great work, we're going to continue to do great work, and it's iterative improvements now. It's not a decade's worth of modernisation or even 15 years of modernisation with some of our maybe pro-con spaces. It is just iterative improvements, and it does cost less. And actually our big programs of work like STEM Connect and Social Sciences Connect, maybe that's where the massively experiential spaces or the massively bleeding edge works take place. And for 99% of the other spaces, it's iterative improvement.
So you mentioned Oxford, the AV working group, which spreads across colleges and departments?
Yeah.
Colleges?
Yeah, so we have college representation, and we've got representation from each of the major divisions.
And we have similar at Cambridge. We don't, as you know, we don't have the centralised AV support
you should
that
do
you
that.
have. Yeah, it's funny. I remember we were talking about that a couple of years ago.
I can recommend it.
Thank you very much for taking the 24 months to get the presentation together
Yeah,
and
sure.
show me how it's done.
Yep.
It's,
Take a copy.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll still keep the business school separate, just like you do here at Warwick. I think it's a good plan.
We do have consultancy rates.
Yeah. We are available.
So just looking at that working group, what sort of things have you had back from your departments, perhaps some of the more specialist teaching departments, that have fed into perhaps some of the innovation and development?
I think the most important thing is the working group provides us a platform to sanity test our ideas. We are not academics, despite our good impression of them earlier, and it is wet now. So having people in those departments come to us and say, we like your standards, we like what you're saying here, but have you considered this? I think the most telling one was when we were interviewing the chap at engineering that was telling us about how much he loves his column whiteboards and why. And we were saying, well, you could just use a visualizer or a smartboard or something. Surely that's better because you can capture that. And then he sat us down and said, no, because I want to tell a narrative that builds throughout my lecture that ends with a whole picture at the end of it. So my students can sit back and now see all of the work we've done over the last 2 hours visually in front of them in one thing. And I can't do that on a visualizer or a smartboard. And having input from individuals in those spaces, it allows us to sanity check our ideas. Sure, we think, oh, we'll put that box in. There we go, job done, happy. But if it's not what the user needs, what do we know?
So I think that's the real question with iteration, right? Where are you getting the information that feeds the iteration?
Yeah, and that was a huge challenge for us. When we first started, when I first started in the role, it was, where's our customer feedback? This was the pandemic was unprecedented. I keep harking back to it, but we didn't really know what we needed at the time. So we took best guesses. We tried to interpret what we think is most likely to be needed. We hoped and knew that everyone would return eventually. So we needed to make sure that the rooms and facilities were, synchronous, asynchronous, and traditional didactic capable. But we just wanted to try and make sure as many of those rooms across the entire university estate were as capable as possible. On the point about innovation, maybe it's a place for my team and my teams is actually to do the iterative piece. And we're fortunate that we have the business schools, the WMGs, that do the innovation, that do these incredible new facilities, that forge a path to drive these standards forward. And then actually, as that becomes maybe a more embedded and more known standard, there may be cheaper, more accessible versions that can then be deployed into our standards. But we've constantly got to balance it. We need to provide facilities for 99% of our customer base. And our customer base, as I say, is staff, student, alumni, external, visitor, etc., etc. It's incredibly diverse. We've done interesting facilities, open plan spaces that are super interactive. And sometimes the academics have just pushed everything back to a traditional lectern format and gone, we need traditional didactic. We've done incredibly innovative spaces, and they've literally gone, where's the lectern?
All rooms with only 3 walls.
Yeah, I was hoping not. Yeah, I was hoping not to mention that. I didn't want to call out the Faculty of Arts building and name any names or any buildings.
You just did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I did, yeah.
Cool.
That feels like a Cambridge move, doesn't it, really?
does.
Oxford wouldn't do that.
No, of course not. We wouldn't name names. Not without a drink in my hand.
Later. You commented as well, Chris, more investment, that actually needs more governance. I think that's really, really important. It's fine. You kind of don't want to throw good money after bad, effectively. The investment is all well and good, but if that's not going to be well managed and well looked after, it's just going to go sour, right?
Yeah, 100%. And our Oxford colleagues raised the point about that diversity of standard and that, we'll get anything we can, money, no object. Well, our mindset was, no, we won't do that. We can't do that because we had the privilege of having a reasonably strong estate already. It just needed investment and modernity. I think if we'd have gone down that route, we'd have really, really struggled. But in terms of the governance piece, you're right. This is institutional governance. But actually, the real nub of this is they trust us. They trust the AV team, who've built a reputation for excellence, for getting us out, getting the institution out of a challenging hole sometimes. We are the technical leads. We are the authoritative voice in this space. And if not us, who? And frankly, the who is no one. So we lead on that conversation, and they've empowered us a great deal. Now, that does mean we could go a bit egotistical and a bit manical, and we could go off on one. But we tend to rein ourselves in most of the time.
Was it that deployment at speed, do you think, was the main way that your team got that reputation and
Well, yeah, that's
kind
great.
of that recognition and then the trust?
Yeah, I think the fact that we used, circa 125k, and it was actually a lot less than that to do an awful lot of the works. The fact we turned rooms from lecture capture and no Teams capability, no Zoom, no other universal communication platforms, we turned that round essentially in 2 weeks of late night workings for about 35k with the Inageni's, the Scarlets, assets of that nature. That proved we could do it, and we could do it cheap and do it cost effectively. And then we scaled and we accelerated and we've never stopped. I mean, actually, ironically enough, I was speaking to my procurement colleague during the recent tender process, and we were saying it's going to be a really quiet year this year, Chris, no worries, no dramas, llamas, easy gig, low spend. This is going to be a nice, smooth process. And then it's just like, actually, turns out, mate, there's another 650,000 we're going to spend here and another 500,000 we're going to spend here and just another 22 rooms there. It'd be fine, though, absolutely fine. So that's one of those things, isn't it? The governance is critical, and the only way you maintain that governance is be trusted, have great relationships with your finance, with your procurement, with your space management, with your timetabling chums. And again, I go back to the pandemic again. It was a remarkable working group, and I look fondly back on that. It's rare that they all align at the same time.
So, Lewis, you've grown a team quite quickly at Oxford. Mm-hmm. That's obviously come with trust. How's that come about?
I am very lucky that when my boss recognised that we were going to have to recruit, I got Jake. And Jake has basically pulled much more than his weight. He's pulled his weight and my weight and a lot of other weight. And it's the successes on those first key early projects. The first project we came into was with our previous integrator, and the project management piece between them and the university was already falling apart. And we sort of flew in and were just like, this person's going on holiday for 3 weeks, right in the middle of, practical completion. So why don't we help? And we did. And suddenly everyone went, oh, it can be done. Okay, let's keep doing it. And it sort of snowballed from there. I had a conversation a long time ago with Keith over there about lecture capture and how we would develop that. And I said, everything at Oxford moves slowly. Glacially, almost. Your 3-year rag is like 300 years for us.
We're only 65 years old.
Yeah. I normally say we've been around 800 years and things don't change overnight.
It takes a while. But it does change. And one project leads to the next. You have one win that leads to another. And before you know it, you've got so much work, you've gone, oh God, I need more people. And then I end up in the situation I am in now, which is a much happier place for me to be.
So, talk about new people. You mentioned the apprenticeship scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, big up to that. And we've got apprentices with us today, which is fantastic. They'll be featured in the AV Awards tonight. They're actually judging one of the awards, at least one of the awards, which is fantastic. How can we attract more people into the industry, and perhaps particularly through the apprenticeship scheme?
I think that's on us. I think we have to recognise that there is a significant value in bringing in fresh blood, fresh talent, new people who maybe aren't necessarily pre-made. When we recruit, we look at CVs and we go, I need someone that can solve this problem now. And I read a lot of CVs and I see a lot of people that could solve these problems right now. But I also see a lot of people who would need training. And I have to make that decision. I have a problem, need to fix it now. I need this person. But we need to be thinking more in advance of that. I need to be saying, I need to solve this problem 2 years from now. So I'm going to take someone who's fresh out of school or fresh out of university that's got some interest, some skill that we can take and as a team nurture and grow and develop. And I think it's bringing those people in, and we all need to recognise that we need to change for us.
Can I intercede a tiny bit as well? On the apprentice piece, you need to also make sure that whether it be a 2-year programme, a 3-year programme, that there is the facility, there is the salary envelope to make sure that that post, if they're up to the standard, can be made substantive. Because we had an exceptional apprentice that worked with us for 2 years, incredibly impactful within the organisation. And unfortunately, because we did not have that individual within the salary envelope, we were not able to make that individual substantive. So you then you're bringing in temps and you're cycling again and you're doing the knowledge transfer, you're bringing everyone up to the bar again. And you'll note I called out that we've got AV and IT, so we're trying to make them flexible capabilities. But it's not lost on me. The point you make is AV staff are unique, they're rare breeds, it is a special talent, and it's becoming even more diverse and more complex with the network integration. So we need to bring through the next generation from our own. And hopefully, you know, they become the next AV senior techs, the next AV specialists, the next AV architects or consultants.
I mean, we do need to try and find these rare and talented people. Lewis took a real gamble on me, right? So I was a film PhD who'd been working frontline IT for a year, right? And that I just somehow managed to get my way through the interview. And here we are, right? When we're looking for techs, I think we often focus too much on the tech element of it. And I think we really tried to focus on getting customer service people, and that's part of that. But then how do we back that up? So the apprenticeship's great. If you're looking at somebody who can afford to live as an apprentice or is that point in their career, like, do we have the training programs within the industry, or certainly we don't have them within Oxford, right? So we lean on things like, you know, the extra and AV associate and CTS and all this kind of stuff. But have we got kind of a nice, clear, robust, somebody's coming in and they're technical, but they're not an AV technician. How do we get them to this point? And how do I get to the point where I know enough about networks? By looking at network stuff a lot, right? But do I have those programs available to me within the university to get me to those places? That, I think, is a really tricky question, because we are changing the industry so quickly, anytime we try and codify what a program might look like, it's out of date. So, you know, you go on these kind of all-rounder general type AV courses, or you see them, and we talk about BNC, right? Like, fantastic.
You need to make sure you've got enough senior AV colleagues left standing to also take these people under their wing and really pour the time and energy and passion into it. And, you know, I've been here 22 years, and anyone who wants to have a laugh later can see my ID card. It's the same photo still. I look, you know, quite fresh in that one. But I remember 22 years ago being taken under the wing in the network realm by senior colleagues at the time, and you do not forget the lessons that you were taught then and the time and care that they invest in you, and that means a lot. And I don't know whether it's unique in HE, but it's one of the rare organisations where you can build a career, you can build something substantial and a legacy. And for me, the reason why I'm still here is because it's a vocation. So if we can offer that, that's something rare and unique to someone coming through, in my view. It's a very rare industry when we've lost so much of it in other sectors across the UK.
Yeah, I made a point of noting down some like the sort of assets you look for, characteristics, hardworking, dedicated, knowledgeable. But you know, the first two things I wrote was about being caring and customer focused, and I think that is there's such strong elements of what AV work is about, is actually caring.
I'm going to have to try and make sure I get this right. It's if you care about your staff, they'll care about their services, which in turn means that they care about their customers. It's, you know, it's one of those sequences. But basically, if you look after your staff, you're going to be in a pretty good place, because they're going to love their work. They're going to pour in time and effort. They're going to drive the standards. And that means we've got a lot of smiling customers all around, which then in turn means we've got a lot of smiling senior executives, which means it's a cycle. That's all we're looking for in the end. It's a cycle.
Succession planning, basically.
Absolutely. Make me obsolete as quickly as possible.
Let's talk just briefly about one sort of specific skill area. We were talking a bit about networking there. How can we lack of training courses? Given that, how can we learn more about networking? How can we skill up in that area so that we're better informed to work with the network teams? I think you used the term in your presentation, the frontier between AV and networks. There's an element of the things that, the network team, they can handle that, or hang on, the network team can't handle that. There's a clash there, isn't there? We have to do a certain amount of translation from the AV world into the networking world, and actually vice versa. We've got to be able to be receptive to that as well when they're talking back to us.
Yeah. I'm also not a networks guy. I have a theatre degree, for crying out loud. You might have noticed that. But I have to be able to have conversations with people much smarter than me and not feel like a complete idiot. So it's on me to read, to learn, to understand, so that I can have these conversations, so that when we go into a space that is having a network problem, I'm not going there, can you fix it, please? It's why I also have Jake, because I've and able to be like, Jake, please learn about networks. And then...
Can we go fix it, please?
Yeah, now can we go fix it, please?
You've got to be able to go toe-to-toe with your networking colleagues. I mean, no one needs to hear about my IT career, but essentially it started in a small school as a 17-year-old, and then I moved into the network team at this university at 19, and then I went into desk side, and then I went into systems, and then I started running the print service, and then the AV service, and a load of other stuff. But I served an apprenticeship, essentially, nominally at more junior ranks, and worked my way through. So that gave me the opportunity to be able to speak with some knowledge and to be taken moderately seriously by colleagues.
That's very much how we felt, sort of walking in on day one of the job and going to the networks team and goes, hello, I'm the new AV support service. We need to work together, please. And doors closed in my face. Because they're like, who the hell are you? What are you doing? You're not going anywhere near our network. What do you mean you want to add this equipment? What? No, go away.
That trust has got to be earned, hasn't it?
We had to earn that trust, and we did, and it took us a while. Now we have full access to all of the switches. We can see our MIST platform. We can see every single packet that goes through every single Teams call. Brilliant. And they trust us not to break that, which is kind of mad, but...
My view would be is if you can rota a member of your staff into the network team for 1 day a week or something like that over a 3-month or 6-month period, that's the way to build trust. That's your way in. And, you know, it's just shared knowledge and shared skills. And actually, they might then devolve some of the tools you need, VLAN flippers or DHCP DNS allocations, whatever it might be. You've just got to work as build that trust, as you say. And you know, you've got Microsoft Skills Initiative. You've presumably Cisco have got a similar scheme. You've got LinkedIn Learning. There are other resources available. And self-study and self-learning is great, but I would say secondments or shadowing or the opportunity to integrate a member of the AV team in one of your network technical teams is probably the best way.
Yeah, I love that as a suggestion. That's a common idea.
You know, I've always relied on the kindness of strangers thing. Like, there's manufacturers out there who are selling us these products that go on the network, and they have built them and designed them, and there is a certain amount of support where you can get from them, as many of these AV over IP manufacturers will know from the last 6 months and me calling them, like, that you will be able to get to a technical level where they can help you with these things. Not why it's going wrong on your network, but at least if you know what expected behavior is, you can then try and translate that. It's that translation layer element.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long time ago now. Most of the networking protocols, I understand, have probably been retired a decade ago. But at that time, the network supplier, Extreme Networks, they offered a complimentary 4-day residential training course for a 19-year-old, and it got you the essentials. And also, back to your point, if you can get one of those locked-up books out, I remember buying, and it was brilliantly named, it's very exciting, The Switch Book. As a young ginger, I was like a caterpillar. I was consuming that book, and the information goes in when you're in those formative years, I'd argue. So.
Yeah, it seems to stop when you hit 40. I don't quite know what's
Oh,
going on.
I mean, nothing at all. It's going out the other end. I'm literally regressing every day.
We've got a few minutes left. Let's go back to our ambitions for AV and perhaps not about future technology, but certainly later developments. There was a few things that you touched on there, I think, Chris, in your presentation. Things such as wireless screencasting is something that's looking forward.
Exactly. We've got a large amount of wireless screencasting. It's essentially modernity of that. It's modernising the reserve room booking panels, the one LAN capability. It's the areas that don't get part of the Century Timetable or CMMRs. I think we're doing some works with QSys, some Dante piece, some AV over IP innovations as well. The thing with me is always we've just been going round and round going, well, that's terrible, we'll replace that. That's slightly less terrible, we'll replace that. That's even less slightly terrible, we'll replace that. Oh, that's 10 years old, we should probably replace that. And you're just going round and round and round. And actually, we've done quite a lot now. Now, we're back to that point of what next? Is it technology innovation? Is it more immersive experiences? Is it huge innovation, like I said, the colleagues in the business school do? Or does it just come back to that iterative piece? And probably it will just be that iterative piece, because all jokes aside, yes, we have got 1,250 extra students because of the changes in international students and domestic students, and we need more teaching spaces, but we might be looking at 500,000 a year now, not 1.6 million, 1.5, 1.36. So we're going to have to use those pennies wisely. I'm also incredibly interested in the kind of assistive learning piece as well, and making our AV infinitely more accessible to students and staff and colleagues that need that. The Bluetooth and wireless assistive listening technologies is something we want to innovate on, particularly in the Oculus building that I plug constantly as a technology demonstrator.
With the assistive tech, what are you looking at Oxford with that?
We are mad on it. Love it. My other hat is the lecture capture service, and I'm all about digital accessibility and digital equity of experience. Boxes like the Auracast's platforms are just game-changing for us. Yes, hearing loops have worked for however long we've had them. I think every room we've walked into to test a hearing loop, it's been broken. Yeah. Which has not been helpful. No. But an Auracast box, you can just unplug and you can put a new one in. How many times have you had to change a loop? Has anyone changed a loop?
No. We've cut through. We've cut through.
Yeah,
We've
has anyone broken a loop? So yeah, that's a lot of work. But switching out one Bluetooth box, we're still waiting on like general consumer adoption for that technology, but it's getting there. I mean, I have it now. I'm happy.
Yeah, the accessibility stuff gets easy with the tech, right? So previously, adding live captions to a system was quite an expensive box, and obviously AI models and things have changed. But now we put Teams rooms in our teaching spaces. We flick captions on, and we have live transcription. We've got an element of recording there. We've got an element of voice lift. Yeah.
I mean, I'm fascinated on the acoustic piece. That resonated with me because that's certainly something.
That was a good pun there, actually. Resonates.
Oh yeah, no. I'm not intelligent enough to have done that deliberately, so apologies. But that is something, you made a really valid point, I thought, about the integrators. They're not always the specialists in that discipline, but they can bring the specialists in that discipline in as well, and they can put that finesse and refinement. I guess the final point I was going to make was, you've been rapidly expanding your team, and that's magnificent. I've been rapidly shrinking my team. But in that regard, they're all still relatively sane, which is a relief. But I think an area that we're ding, 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 yeah, exactly, missed opportunity. I think the remote management's a real interesting one for me, and we're looking at remote management, as you say, on particular vendors and whatnot. But I'm actually probably going to take away the acoustic piece. I'm probably going to take away the agnostic management platform. Yeah. If we could actually manage the vast majority of our platforms on one technology stack remotely, so the chaps don't have to get out of a comfy chair with a fridge and all the usual Warwick accoutrements, then I think that's a really good thing.
There are people in this room trialling these things, right? So we're excited to see what happens with them. I think there's always going to be the thing of somebody's going to come up with something really great that works for their institution, and then we're going to have to see the extent at which Oxford can break it. And I think that's kind of the next step, is us breaking all these kind of industry standard protocols.
Yes, wireless, sort of Wi-Fi based assistive listening is one of those. For us, we can't use that because all of our wireless access points, before they come back to devices, they go out of the building and they go to a centralized location and come back. That introduces 300 to 450 milliseconds of latency. That's too much latency for assistive listening. Yeah. So it's just a non-starter. So yeah.
And it's also why we can't do wireless video sharing, the things you're talking about there.
We can't do wireless video sharing.
Yeah, you do definitely have some latency issues in that realm. Yeah.
Well, we've gone past the 4 o'clock time, so I think this is the point we should wrap up. And so a huge thanks to Chris, Jake and Lewis for fantastic presentations this afternoon. Theatrics even. Thank you very much, gents.